Oh, so we're live. Thank you everybody for tuning in to another night of Conversations in the She Shack. I know that we had been planning to, we have been, what we're not doing in the She Shack tonight is waiting to after we go live to start trying to set this set up to make it look what you think I wanted to look. I wanted that sign to show love, and I wanted that pillow to show love, because that's what we're going to be spreading around in the She Shack tonight. So
well, turn it so I can see it.
Is this sign bothering you?
Yes, turn it so I can see it. There you go.
There's some ghetto behind. We just can't seem to get it together, can we?
Get what you pay for, baby. Get what you pay for.
It's trial and error, you know.
This is definitely some damn trial and error.
Get what you pay for.
Okay, so like I said before, I was so rudely interrupted. The first thing I wanted to say is thank you again for tuning in to another live here in the She Shack. We are actually switching gears a little bit, and tonight, in light of some recent tragedies that hit very close to home, and also in the sake of Mental Health Awareness Month, we've already been talking about it. We've been pretty much talking about mental health and being aware pretty much all month. We talk about it all the time, but we did have a live specifically talking about self-love and self-care just a few weeks ago when we were discussing it, and it just seems to keep coming back around. It seems to keep being a topic that needs to be discussed. And I think the biggest thing is, do we know what self-love is? What do you think, Sha? What do you like? Because I think sometimes people think self-love is the same thing as self-care. You know what I mean? But it's not the same thing. I think there needs to be like some lines drawn between self-love and self-care.
Because self-care is just dealing with the physical. You know, self-love is the inner work. So you can self-care yourself to death to look good on the outside, but what them insides is looking like. You know what I'm saying? So self-love is like, that's something that we really need to take more seriously, because if we not loving ourselves properly, how can we give love properly and receive love properly?
I don't think that we can. I don't think that we can properly, I can't even speak, properly receive love and or properly love people without having a sense of love for ourselves, because I'm not like sure, like how can you really say genuinely that you love a person but you don't even know what love really feels like? Right. In order to be able to give love, you have to know how to receive love. You have to know what it feels like. Have you ever had a time where you weren't familiar or felt like you didn't love yourself? And if you did, what was like some of the things that you did to kind of like counteract that, or was this still like a journey for you?
It's still a journey for me. It's funny because right now I'm kind of going through my own personal journey. I've gained a lot of weight that I'm really not used to. And, you know, it was okay at first because, you know, my husband loves it. But for me, this ain't it.
When you say this ain't it, you mean in what? Like
I'm not happy with this weight.
Okay.
It's too much for me.
Okay.
Like, you know, I understand, you know, my husband, you know, wants me to be all thick and all that.
So do you find that that's like, is that having like an effect on the way you see yourself, the way you love yourself, or
it's affecting the way that I see myself, because first of all, I can't fit nothing. And I'll be wanting to get dressed, you know, and put my little clothes on and stuff, but I can't fit nothing. And I don't want to go in the store and buy no 3X. I don't want that for me.
Okay.
So being as though, like I said,
Get out. You just limping around and just limping around and limping around, girl. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's bothering me, so I've decided that I'm going to do something about it.
Okay.
So now I'm getting ready to start going to the gym to work on me, for me. Like, I love my husband, but this is for me. This is personal.
I understand.
Because I feel like if I don't feel good about myself, you know, what you say, it don't really matter because it's me. You know, I have to look in the mirror every day and love me. Right now, I ain't feeling me.
Okay.
So,
Does it affect how you love you?
I be depressed some days. Like, I don't want to get up. To be honest, I don't even look in the mirror that much. Since I've gained all this weight, I really don't. I don't take pictures like I used to. And I'm a very photogenic person. I love taking pictures. And I don't really take too many pictures like I used to because I don't feel that.
So when you say, like, you know, I'm not feeling the weight, I'm not looking at myself in the mirror, I'm feeling really self-conscious about my clothing, did this like happen over time, or like now, is it now like this is like you've gotten to a point now, like in most recent, where now it's like really affecting how you see yourself? Your body
it's
image?
now. It took time because at first it wasn't, you know, really bothering me. But like I said, once I started getting up to put clothes on, and I'm like, I can't even put no clothes on. I'm walking around in sweats, tights, or pajama pants and stuff. No, I'm too old for that. So,
Or maybe it more or less it should be an option, not like I have to.
Right. I shouldn't have to put on pajama pants to be comfortable, or you know, some sweats to be comfortable. I should be able to be comfortable in my clothes.
Right.
And I'm not, so stay tuned, y'all. I'm about to be a working ex in this gym.
So I for me, as far as like in light of self-love, I've always heard like my mom say she loves me, or my children say she loves me, or my husband says that he loves me, but secretly, I didn't really know how to love me. Like, that didn't even seem like it was a natural thing. So with the, you know, we saw hashtag self-care, hashtag self-love, hashtag this, hashtag that. That's, excuse me for 1 second. Mr. Cameraman, need you to stop slamming these doors. It's very interruptive. We trying to have a serious discussion here in the She Shack, and you coming in one door, out another door, slamming doors, crawling on the floor. I'm like, how are we supposed to even really be live right now? You know?
Look, you didn't want me running in front of the cameras and all that, and now you complain about me trying to avoid the cameras. I got you. All right. Carry on.
I don't know how we supposed to really, like, I just don't understand. When are we going to get this thing in some kind of professional manner here? Like, when are we going to get this thing together, you know?
We gotta have a meeting.
Oh, now we need meetings now.
Hey, y'all have a meeting, yeah? When y'all have y'all meeting, y'all discuss my pay, all right? Because my prices just went up. The more y'all keep fussing, my price go higher and higher
Don't
and
say
higher.
y'all. Don't say y'all.
Because now you want the meeting, she complaining.
I just figured the meeting, you know, that way we could come to an agreement.
You know, y'all messing with my mental right now. Y'all carry on.
Oh, so now we messing with, and that's exactly what we're talking about tonight. We are talking about mental health. We're talking about wellness. We're talking about self-love. And with that, and the reason why I wanted to divert this week's marriage boot camp and talk about something a lot more serious is because I had a very, very close friend of mine who lost her son suddenly, a friend of ours who lost her son suddenly to suicide. And one of our girlfriends in the circle made she made sense in the statement that she made. And it was not so much that pointing fingers and saying it's your fault, or your fault. But she made a statement that said, we as the village, we failed. As the village, we failed. We're not checking in on our children the way we should. We're not reaching out and being a support system in the way that we should. And that really struck home for me because I've always had a village. My husband and I have always had a means of support by so many different people that were, involved in helping us raise our children. Our neighbors was there. We had friends that helped out. Our parents was there, and I guess the question poses, are there still villages? Or are we still comfortable enough in 2022 to see one of our girlfriends' child or a neighbor child don't necessarily have to be your friend and say, hey, where are you going? Or who's this, like you see them in a group of people that don't looking a little sketchy.
It's funny that we're talking about the village because one of my Facebook friends had put up a post and it made so much sense, and it was saying how, y'all, a lot of people always talking about the village this, the village that, but a lot of people don't have a village because you don't want nobody to discipline your children, or you don't want nobody to necessarily correct your children. You know what I'm saying? And I see a lot of that. Like, you want the village when it's convenient for you, but that's not how the village works.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying? The village is just that. It's the village. We're there to nurture. We're there to, chastise if need be. We're to do everything that you would do. That's what the village consists of. We're a team. And if everybody's not on the same page, then how can you consider it a village? And that goes with the adults of the village, because we are the village. You know what I'm saying? Even though our children are grown and adults, they're still our children, or an extension of our loved ones' children. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people lose focus in that because, they're grown. That don't mean that you stop being there for them just because they're adults. That even goes back to something that you said a while back in the group, asking about the adult children. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because they're adults, I feel as though we should still be that safety net, because things happen out there in the world. Even us, when we was coming up, we fell on struggles and stuff, and we needed somebody to fall back on. So what makes it even different for our children now that they're adults?
I absolutely agree with that. I think that somewhere along the wavelengths of get crossed, and the hustle and bustle of days of work life, of struggles, and we sometimes get lost in our own adult stuff and forget about how our children are knitted. You have a disagreement, or y'all start to have a strain on a relationship. So now you're not checking in with the kids because I'm not talking to the mother, or I'm feeling some type of way about this. And in the meantime, when these waters get murky, the kids are getting lost in the shuffle. And when they're getting lost in the shuffle, unfortunately, when we coming back together, and most times it's tragedy, sometimes it's celebration. I don't think that we should just be checking in because it's graduation or a birthday or a holiday or some type of event. I'm talking about everyday checking in. How you feeling about you?
Right.
And making it so that even if everything is good, and they saying that everything is good, sometimes it would even raise a red flag for me if everything is always good. You understand what I'm saying? Because life doesn't even function in a way that things are always good. There's challenges. I'm not saying you got to be down and out and distraught, but there are challenges. Right. And for someone to always say, I'm good, everything is great, and they always looking bubbly and happy. To me, that's right, exactly. That's the sign that, hey, we might need to take a closer look and see what is actually happening. I can even go a little closer into my own personal life and talk about how I had children that was dealing with different mental health issues. Depression, anxiety, a combination of panic attacks, and just being in my home and just working and working and working and working and working and schedules crossing. I missed a lot of stuff, you know. We're going to take a pause real quick right here because now I have my mom that's going to come in and join us in the She Shack. I'm so excited to have her. You know, she dragging in a little late because, you know, she had a company. If you remember, last time when we was in the She Shack, we had some conversations going on. And today she's dragging along. But we so happy to have you in the She Shack here tonight. You can come pop right in, make yourself comfortable. We actually took and switched gears a little bit tonight on the She Shack and came back and rewind a little bit to talk about self-love, not so much self-care, but also just mental health awareness. I shared with you earlier in the week that a really good friend of mine had suddenly lost her son to self-inflicted injuries. And it was a statement that, like, you know, because there's a little circle of girlfriends that, you know, we share amongst, and our kids all grew up together and that kind of stuff. And one of the ladies said, the village has failed our children. Not necessarily saying it's your fault or my fault or her fault or his fault, but as a unit, and it seemed like it hit home with everybody in the room in that moment, that the village has failed our children. And I was just sharing with Kashaya that there has been, for my husband and I, we had a village to help us raise our kids. Everybody had a part. Everybody helped us in some type of way. If it was picking the kids up, dropping the kids off, helping them with homework, babysitting while we was working, feeding them, like spending time with them, taking them to church, everybody poured into the pot. And I was just saying also, like, in now times, is that you don't see that same village, that same knit, that same energy. That's like you don't get this. You don't see that. You don't see that. A lot of times you see temperamental people change, the ages of parents change, ethics change, beliefs change. Don't say nothing to my kids. You know, I don't want nobody saying anything to my kids. Or don't put your hands on my child. Or you know, this kind of stuff. Like when my brother and I was coming up, you got multiple spankings. Like it was, if the neighbor seen you, they got with you. Now the neighbor gonna tell the mother or the father, whoever they see first, and they gonna get with you. And then when whoever come home, mom and or dad, then they gonna get with you. Now you got multiple people, and now everybody's watching. Because now you're trying to be slick. So now everybody got there and said, I see her going down and she just turned around that corner right here. Everybody's looking out. And like now as an adult, I can see how that was the way that the village kept us safe. You know? So I think I feel like I interpreted that when she said the village failed our kids, we're no longer protecting our children as a community.
Well, I'm not going to say y'all not. I don't tend to believe the village per se is not protecting the children. I think what needs to happen is they need a means of communication. And the reason why I say that is because I have a certain rapport with my grandchildren, and they know that they can always call and talk to me about anything, okay? There is no limitation of what they can and can't talk to me about. And the reason why we have that understanding is because I set that tone, okay?
I think
And
the tone
then
was set not just
not
personally,
necessarily,
but I think because that's what I'm talking about, like that group of people that helped in building relationships with them, like you, like my dad, like Gran, like Grandpa, like Pam.
Absolutely,
Shout out
bro.
to Pam, who by the way, Pam, I don't even know if you are watching. I sent her a message today. She sent us a congratulations about anniversary, but I sent back to her and said, hey, thank you for being you. I'm talking about somebody that will get our kids, not one, all of them but one. She would take TJ, but she would take the other ones. And when I tell you she would keep them for a weekend, she'll do, activity things with them. She was phenomenal.
yeah, I'm not saying that everybody, no, I'm not saying that we all didn't contribute. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying to you is that I always told them, look, y'all can always talk to me about anything, but know this. If it's something that I feel that your parents need to know about, I'm telling. Okay? So, in today's society, the grandmothers are younger. They're doing what the mothers are doing. We all out partying. I can't, And not only that, you have a lot of single parent homes. Okay? And a lot of time that single parent is working 2 and 3 jobs trying to provide for her family.
Now, let's not talk about these new era kids and how ungrateful they can be.
Yeah. And then this is the other thing, when my kids were coming up, I can only speak for mine. We had an agreement, okay, and the agreement was this pay period is be for Marlon, my son, when I'm buying. Then the next pay period that comes along would be for my daughter, which is Yvette. Because then back in the day, I wasn't really hung up on brand name, okay? And a lot of kids were. I mean, a lot of parents were at that time. Jabot jeans and Nike shoes and Reeboks and all this kind of stuff. My thing was if it was clean, it ain't had no holes in it, and wearable, you gonna wear it, okay? Not saying that my kids didn't have name brand stuff. When I could afford it, they got it. But if I couldn't afford it, you can't get something that I can't afford.
Right.
Now, in my son's case, he was really hard on shoes and clothes. Extremely hard on clothes and shoes, particularly. Yvette, not so much. So then they switched all the children because it was so much peer pressure during their time. And I can only speak when they were in school, okay? And it was a lot of peer pressure. My mama bought me this and your mama couldn't afford that and blah, blah, blah. So
There's still a lot of that.
they switched the kids at that time all in uniforms to cut that out, okay? And it did, it helped a lot. But in today, I really, to be absolutely honest with you, I am so glad I don't have children in school in this day and time. Because the kids today go through so much. And they hold so much inside that you really don't know what's going on with them until it's too late, okay? If they having difficulties at school, a lot of times we as parents don't find out about it unless they get in trouble or they start acting out.
I think that's why one of the things that when my kids were younger, we had a thing where, this is before all the cell phones was a really big thing or whatever, but we used to have family nights, and we would all come to the table and eat together. And when we would eat, we actually would talk to each other about things that was going on. That was my way of checking in with them to find out, are they dealing with situations in school and being bullied and things like that. And when the hustle and bustle of life came and some struggles started to happen within our family, that was one of the things that we got away from. We got away from sitting at the table together and talking about our day. And when we got away from that, later on down the line, I was able to find that my children were being bullied in school. And that this was having a tremendous, effect on them. That's why I'm like, do we really know what loving ourselves is all about? Do we really understand what it means to love ourselves in the journey, in the course of? People feel like
It's an everyday journey.
It's a misconception that you are born into this world and you love yourself. It's just like love is a learned emotion, just like not loving or feeling angry or feeling hurt or feeling disappointed. You won't know what any of it feel like until you feel it. If you've never been disappointed, you wouldn't know what being disappointed felt like. If you didn't know what sadness felt like, if you had never been sad, how would you know that you're sad?
And that's really true. But then again, because of the fact a lot of us is stuck with our cell phones in our faces all the time, or we behind the video games and stuff like this all the time. A lot of times kids can be lonely in their own world because they feel that they don't have anybody they could come to. They feel, and I think that's where they have that sense of loss or that sense of saying that you don't care about me. But again, it's all in communication. I think a lot of times, a lot of instances can be avoided if there was more communication. Put down the cell phones every now and then. Turn the television off. Turn the game systems off.
That all sound good because that all sounds good. But I didn't have cell phones and stuff like that.
I'm not
but,
saying
but just
then.
hear me out.
Now.
But I'm just even now or then because I don't know if the cell phones and the video games is the interruption. I know for me when I was struggling with my own self-identity, you didn't know I was struggling with my own self-identity. You didn't know. We talked every day. But I had a way to be able to hide behind the sadness I was truly feeling inside. I hid behind being molested. You didn't know I was molested for years and years. But I hid behind it. It was like you find a way to be able to make the people around you comfortable with what they want to see in you versus what's really going on with you. So that's why I kept saying, do we really know what it is to love ourselves? Because I know when I was in that awkward stage of growing up and trying to figure and wiggle through life, I didn't know what loving myself was. That sounded foreign. That didn't become a real thing for me until much later in life. I felt that being a good mom and being, doing all the things that was showed before me, that I seen what a wife does, what a mother does by the other mothers that I had seen around me and other wives that I had seen around me. So it wasn't that I didn't know what to do. I knew how to do it. I knew what Tremaine expected to see. Even when I was a young person coming up, I knew what you expected to see. I knew what you expected from me. So I knew as long as I kept this done and this done and this done, made good grades in school, it was never going to be no attention on me that allowed me to hide behind what was really going on with me.
I think especially more so now in this day and age, I know especially for me, like with everything that's going on, it's brought a lot of awareness for me as a mom, to start having different types of conversations with my children, to understand, like to help them understand what it is to have that self-love. Like stop trying to, like one of my biggest things with my children is them trying to fit in. So I've been, that's something that's funny because I've really been praying that God like give me the words to say to them, because even though my children are kind of close in age, they're still different in personalities.
Absolutely.
Like the things that I could say to Kai, I can't go and say the Zai. You know what I'm saying? And the same with Mari and Sissy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
they're all different. So I would have to address them differently, and that's something that I definitely want to start working on as far as me teaching my children the self-love concept, because that's very important, because even now with my oldest son, he's starting to get into the dating world. And I see a lot of me in him, so I'm like, yes, it's about time for us to have a different conversation. You know, you could have the birds and the bees conversation all day, but nobody ever really sat down with me, and this is just me personally, and told me, you know, you should love you. Like, nobody told me that.
I think we get so on autopilot. That's what I really think. I really think that we get on autopilot with certain things. That, you know, you feel like you automatically know you're supposed to love yourself. Like, I don't have to tell you to love you. You already know that. Like, but the God's honest truth is, we don't know. Like with my grandson, I have an 8-year-old grandson, and I would sit and I know he probably is like, no, Nana, what's wrong with her? But I would get him in front of the mirror, and every morning before he would start his day, I would have him say, I am smart, I am handsome, I am intelligent, I am royalty. You know what I mean? I am worthy, I am kind, I am gentle. You know, those kind of, like, pouring into him goodness of who he is as a person. So when you go out into this world, you assured about who you are. Right. You know, I wasn't so sure. And even as a mom, I didn't do that with my kids. This is like, I'm just learning. As you know, now that I'm a grandmother, I've learned more about how to, you know, build self-esteem within your children. Like, I would tell my kids every day, I love them.
Right.
You know, I love you. I would tell my daughters, you're beautiful. I would tell my sons they was handsome. But I don't ever recall saying, you're beautiful, you're smart, you're kind, you're gentle, you're this. You know, giving them so many attributes. And then when things would arise, when situations would come about, and then I would find myself saying, well, come on now, you know you're beautiful, and you're smart, and you're this, and you're that. And I would see the change in their faces when I would say things to them. So I made it more of my business to say that, you know, it just with this whole situation that this thing that has come about, it just brought
awareness,
a whole bunch of different emotions to me as it relates to my own kids, especially knowing that I've had my own children to struggle with depression and have their own issues with anxiety and panic disorders and things of that nature. And it just made me think, like, am I really in tune? And how can, and if I'm not as in tune as I would like to be, you know, this brought to the surface, hey, we need to shake this up a little bit, and we need to start having some real conversations and not spending so much time. For me personally, I find myself like, you really done did it this time, and it struck out to me in a way that made me feel like I'm not speaking to you right now. And now it just made me look at it different. Why did you strike out? You know, I wasn't taught to be like, why did you do it? The whole thing, I guess I've always been on autopilot. You just don't do it. There's certain things you just don't do. There's certain places you just don't go. Certain things you just don't say. That's just the way I've always been. But then now in 2022, when you see suicide is the highest rate that it's been in 20 years, and you seeing mental health illness at an all-time high, and we're in an opioid pandemic, and we see addiction at an all-time high, people are struggling.
Yeah. And I know for me growing up, like, we weren't allowed to have an opinion. Like, we couldn't express how we felt. It was this is that and that's it.
That's it, that's all.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed with me, I'm not like that with my children, because I know what that did to me. So the things that, you know, were bad for me as a child, I try not to be that way with my children. As you know, my children voice their opinions very well. They let you know real quick, this ain't that, I don't like it. And I give them the opportunity to explain their feelings and their thoughts. I wasn't given that luxury as a child. I was scared to death.
I don't think I was afraid to say anything to my mom. I just felt a need to protect her. And I say protect because I was a little older than my brother, so I saw and understood things a little differently. Like my mother, I remember as a child, my mother was sick at some point, and I remember going in the kitchen and cooking. I couldn't have been no more than maybe 5 or 6 years old, and I flipped over a bucket, and I was in front of the stove, and I started to cook. I just mimicked what I saw her do. I don't know if it was good, bad, or indifferent, but we ate it. You know what I mean? I remember those times where I remember my mom struggling. I remember us not having vehicles. I remember her, you know, going to Goodwill and having to like pick through shoes to try to find something that was half decent for us to put on. I remember those things. I remember when the struggle was so hard. So I was always the kind of child that did not want to bring extra. I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to make bad grades in school. Besides, my brother was doing enough. Like he was doing the most. Like I didn't feel like mommy needed more from me when she was giving so much. Right. You know, so I always felt like I wanted to be kind of like on the backdrop. I struggled a lot with a lot of things that my mom didn't become aware of until I was an adult. You know, I really struggled with self-love. I struggle with self-love.
You know what, I think most people do to a certain degree.
Yeah.
I really believe that. I believe a lot of people struggles with that to a certain degree, even myself. You know.
What does self-love mean to you?
I mean, to me, I have to love. I have to be able to love myself in order to love someone else. Remember, I have told y'all once before I had to reintroduce myself to myself.
Right.
Well, that was because I had a lot of doubt at that particular time about who I was as an individual.
And reinsurance come in all different forms. I'm telling people that.
Right. You know, I really did.
Some of it is not really real though.
That's true.
So I just was having a conversation with one of my nieces today, and I had actually did a brief live earlier, and I was just letting the She Shackers know when we did a She Shack live tonight. We were switching gears a little bit because we were supposed to be doing our marriage boot camp. So I just wanted to let check in and let everybody know we're gonna be switching gears because something traumatic it's been quite a few traumatic things that's been going on. We just had a shooting. What, it was in Texas, I believe.
Yes, today.
And it's
14 children
in the elementary school, and then we had the shooting in Buffalo. You know, that kind of stuff. It's been a lot of things going on.
We had a shooting in our own personal family.
You know, and then we've just had we've been personally touched by violence. My own nephew, was recently shot, and it's just so much going on that it's not you. I didn't even feel comfortable coming in the She Shack tonight and laughing and giggling and talking when we're dealing with so much going on around us. Not that we shouldn't have fun, not that we shouldn't enjoy one another and rejoice in those type of things, but we have to also shine light and check in on the very people that follow us and say, hey, we're here for you. We talk so candidly about how the She Shack is about therapy and about love and about empowerment and spreading wisdom. So there was no way that we can continue on and not divert one Tuesday to discuss, these matters. I actually reached out to my girlfriend. This was laid on my heart. And I reached out to her this morning, and I said, hey, I wouldn't, in respect to her family, I said I would never say your name on live. I would never use your family name, but I would like to do in memory of. And this was my way of doing an in memory of her son, in memory of the struggles that he's had to deal with, depression, in memory of her own personal issues that she had to deal with to get to a good solid place with herself, being fulfilled spiritually and mentally and emotionally, and being able to come to terms with the loss of a child, which is so traumatic, but more so in such a way, even when I was talking to my niece today, and when I went on live and she was saying, I'm not okay. That's what she said. she was on my live, and I went on live, and I was like, talking about what is self-love. And I just went on, and it was just expressing some concerns that I had, and just talking about the live and how we were switching gears. And she came on the live, and she says, I'm not okay. That's what she said. So in that moment, I had to stop and reach out to her, because I thought that was a cry. That was a reach out. I'm not okay. I don't know how many people are here. I know my auntie is here, and I'm telling you, I'm not okay. And what was so crazy about that statement was, it never crossed my mind to call her and say, are you okay? Until she says, I'm not okay, but I'm in the village. You understand? Because I'm taking for granted that I'm not hearing from you, so you must be okay. But in all actuality, and when I'm talking to her, and what she said to me was, I was embarrassed to say that I wasn't okay. I was embarrassed to ask for help. I was embarrassed to express that this is what I'm feeling. So it's so easy for us to say, oh, you can come and talk to me about anything, but are they really coming to do it? Because that gives us a level of comfort in our seat that we don't have to do anything, because we done already told them, you can come to me and talk to me whenever you want. But it's really, it has to be.
You shouldn't be so comfortable in your seat.
Exactly.
And the reason why I say that is, even though I personally, again, I only can talk about what I experienced with my grandkids, I call them and check on them. If I don't hear from them, I say, you know, I haven't heard from, say, TJ. Let me call and check on TJ. Or I haven't heard from Mara. Or even when I'm talking to her, I asked her, have you spoken to so-and-so, so-and-so today? When last time you spoke to Mara, Crystal, or Christopher? You know, I asked, you know. And if she said, well, Mom, I haven't spoken to them today, or I just got off the phone with them, or whatever. But for my own self-satisfaction, I call and talk to them, you know. Because sometimes you have to be a listener and not a talker, okay? And sometimes I would just call and listen, okay? Because sometimes you just have to listen. Sometimes they just need to vent, you know? Even me, myself. And I think, you know, as time goes on and as you get older, you learn certain things or attributes or certain qualities or certain things you need to do as a grandparent or as a parent. And one of the things that I've learned from raising my own kids is you have to learn how to listen. Okay? Sometimes just chastising a child is not where it's at. Okay? So I will always tell my kids, I'm growing up in here. Okay? Now, have you told me everything I need to know? I don't want any surprises. I'd rather hear from you than hear from somebody else. I can deal with it better if I hear from you versus if I hear from somebody else. You understand? So I have that same kind of concept with them, but I'm more of a listener now than I was before. You know, because when they were coming up, yeah, I was always busy. I was always working. You know, because at one given time I was the sole provider. You know, and we didn't live in the best of places, but we had a roof over our head. You know, so, but now in today's society and knowing everything that's going on around, particularly, and I really didn't say a whole lot about this. Even my grandson was staying in Philadelphia. I was scared of that. I really was. I really was afraid for him, okay? But I knew that's where he wanted to be. So I always made sure I had kept that connection with him. You know, how you doing today? You doing okay?
The one thing about Bruiser, this is the one thing I will say about Bruiser. When Bruiser's quiet, something's up. That's the one thing about Bruiser. When Bruiser get quiet, something is in the pudding. Like all of the kids that different now that they're like older, you know, because and because I wasn't, you know, a no nonsense kind of parent. I won't say I didn't beat the hell out of my kids, but I was a no nonsense parent. I didn't take no crap from them. You know, it's 4 of y'all. At one point it was 6 of y'all. Y'all gotta get in line. We gotta get this thing together. You know, but like TJ is my son that TJ don't let too much time go by. He's calling, right? So if TJ is another one, if TJ get quiet, it's one of two things. He pissed off with me or something going on, right? That my girls are kind of opposite of that. Like my oldest daughter, she's a little bit more independent. But if she start coming around more and more and more and more and more, something in the pudding, right? Baby girl, she ain't letting too much time go by, period. She's the one that needs reassurance and has always been that way. You know, if you won't love on her and kiss on her and squeeze on her and tell her on a regular and consistent basis that she's beautiful and that you love her, then she starts to doubting. Am I really pretty? Like all of them have something different. But it took me a little, you know, over time as they started to grow up and become more of adults. Some of their traits remain the same. One thing I do appreciate that they will call and talk to me. But I also know that my children have a trait that I have. They want to protect mom, like I want to protect my mother. So there's things that they necessarily might not want to share with me because they don't want me to worry. They already know, oh, mom always trying to protect us. Mom, you know, this and that. We don't want her to overreact, things like that. And we can actually scare them away. Not because they're fearful that we're going to harm them, but we can actually scare them away with the way we react, the way we respond, the way we protect. That nurturing of love that we want to just kind of always kind of want to fix it, you know. And this is all for me now. Oh, my children are older now, and I'm understanding more. They're not like old, but they're older. They're independent enough. But as a mom of now independent children, I'm also learning that realm of being a mother. Because there's different levels to this thing, you know, and when it's different levels, when they're changing and you don't change, there grows a gap between you and your children and the way they want to communicate with you. But as they grow and they evolve, you have to grow and evolve too. You know, this is all a work in progress, you know, and you know what I mean?
When they were young adults, well, I'm going to say between their teenage years and their young adult years, when something go wrong, they used to come and get in my bed. Okay? Now, they call one another. You know, I'm going to tell mama on you. Or, did you talk to mom? Or I will tell her, you call your brother? Did you talk to your brother? Or I tell the brother, did you call and talk to your sister? Sometimes because
that's her way of telling. You do understand? Are you listening to this? This is her way of like, listen, something going on with your sister. Did you call your sister? Or something going on with your brother? Did you call your brother? But what mom realizes is that we always communicate. My mother built a bond between my brother and I from very young. Like my brother and I are really joined at the hip. We are two, but we really are one. That's my baby brother, but we're one. So I can actually feel when something is not right with him. I mean, like, I'll never forget a time my brother had gotten sick and my husband and I was getting ready to go travel somewhere. We was going somewhere, I think Mexico. I think we was going to celebrate like our 20th anniversary and my brother had gotten sick and he was in the hospital. And I'm looking at him like, I'm not going. Because I got to go over here and see about my brother. And my heart just was like, pounding and heavy and pounding. It didn't feel complete until I arrived. And our hearts needed to be drawn next to each other. I got the bed with him in the hospital bed. We was in the hospital bed together. That's when I started to feel a level of comfort and security when I was next to him. You know, like it's not like a incest love. but it's an obsessive love. It's like, we can't be but too far apart from one another. Like him in New Jersey and me in Delaware is about as far as we can go. That's it. We have to be able to drive and get to one another, and that's just what it is. And my mom always taught us that if we didn't have mom, we always had each other. You know, I can call my brother and talk to my brother about absolutely anything, and the table goes both ways. My brother can call me and talk to me about that's actually where the no judgment zone came from. That's where it all began between him and I. You don't judge me, I don't judge you, but we always love and help each other. And that was something that we've always had from little kids. Having somebody, you know, to kind of like talk to. And I guess this is what this is, you know, opening up doors and say, hey, I know you, a lot of these that may be tuning in on the She Shack, you may not even know me or my mom or Kashaya, but this is a small village here that you can send out messages, you can email us, you can DM us. We are listening. This the one over here, she's like co-host, personal assistant. She answers all emails, all text messages.
Really?
Yes, she follows all the lives. She knows who's viewing. She knows every member. She knows how many subscribers. She is literally follows every single thing with the She Shack every single week.
Well, that's awesome.
I mean, like we was talking about it today, and I was like, oh my God, I need a personal assistant. She said, I'll be your personal assistant. I'm like, so, with that being said, guys, listen, don't forget to go to YouTube and check out our YouTube channel. We have conversations from the She Shack on YouTube. We put all of this stuff on live. We actually have now our She Shackers is calling us She Shackers Live. She Shackers Live, that's what they calling us now. She Shackers Live, yes.
Marlon have a question. I guess I'm waiting on the question to come through.
So it goes to YouTube. Check out our channel, man. Everything is up there. We go on there. We actually have an afterlife. We have an afterlife. The cameras keep rolling. After the live go, the conversation keep going. And what we just talk about, it's just everyday things. Hey, this is support here. If you need some help, no matter how big or how small, please let us know. Maybe we can help you. Shoot, we can do a GoFundMe page, a change.org. And speaking of change.org, if you have not had an opportunity yet, check it out in Conversations from the She Shack. My brother Quentin Brown has a change.org petition going. We need 50 more signatures on that petition so that we can get it on the docket. Please, guys, go ahead and sign that petition and let's get something done in the name of justice. Yes.
Marlon asked, who was the date?
Didn't I tell you?
So, on a lighter note, I thought I told you the date was in the text message, but you trying to be funny, right? But I'm gonna go on and tell you, you know who it was. I'm just gonna give you the initials. BM. BM. Last name Mason. That's all I got for you. Yeah, so if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, hey, if there are any counselors out there, if there's any therapists out there, you're willing to offer your services, drop it down in the chat. We will share it on our page. It'll also be on our YouTube channel. It's always a pleasure to sit down and talk to you about just about everything. But since we're talking about that, I just wanted to kind of like bump in a little bit, because I do recall you saying that your son was almost of an age of dating in the dating world, and you was going to have a different kind of conversation. And that's all good to talk about the birds and the bees, or you was going to talk about a different conversation. I remember when my boys was getting to a certain age, one of the biggest conversations that was the most uncomfortable conversation ever was masturbation.
Oh, we had that conversation already.
And how did it go? Like, what did you say? Like, how did it go? Because for me, I was like, well, you know, it's natural. But it was like, I'm bringing the conversation actually after it's already happening.
Yeah, I actually walked in on it, so. And I had to like tell, I was like, you don't be embarrassed. I'm like, just be cautious, lock your door, go in the bathroom so you know, you could be more private with it. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't want him to like feel uncomfortable or nothing like that.
Did you, what did you feel?
I don't know. I don't know, right? I don't know, I didn't feel away.
You didn't feel away?
No, I just was mad that I walked in on it. That was the only thing for me. I was just like, oh my God. And I'm just like, look, just lock the door. Like, be caught, you know, be mindful that, you know, there's other people in here.
Do you think that helped with the communication between you and your son? It made it easier for him to come in?
Me and my son talk about everything.
Yeah.
I know about all the sex encounters. Do I like to have them conversations? No, but he brings them to me.
That's like my mom. I talk to my, now, today, I literally talk to her about almost everything. About everything.
Just about.
Just about everything. Some of the stuff I know she don't want to hear, but we talk about it anyway. Yeah, we have another question.
Marlon asks to Bebe, how do you feel about true love in this decade?
Oh, that's a great question.
Wow. I'm a believer in true love. I really am. Mm-hmm. I believe that love hurts.
That's a topic for another day. I believe that's a topic for another day because I don't think love hurt people. I believe people hurt people.
Well, yeah, well. And I think it's because you can love somebody and that person don't love you the way you expect them to love you in return. So, but
reciprocated love.
Yeah, a convenient kind of thing or something.
That's not really love.
No, it's not. It's not. But I'm a believer. I'm a believer. When you hear people say soulmates, that's a type of a deepness that two people have that it's like an unbreakable bond. It's like they're drawn to one another. That's my yin and that's my yang, but they're drawn to one another.
Do you believe that soulmates don't have to necessarily be a romantic relationship?
Yeah, they could be the best of friends. They could be the best of friends. They sure can. But yeah, I'm a believer in it. I really am. I haven't given up on love. Let me just say it that way. You know, I think last week we had this conversation before, and I had told you that I have not been involved with anyone in 6 years, period, romantically or otherwise. And Saturday was the first date I have had in 6 years.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Conversations from the She Shack, our She Shack Live. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for your support. But most importantly, don't forget to check in. Check in with your friends, your family, your wives, your husbands, your neighbors, your nieces, your nephews, your children, your grandchildren. Do not forget to check in with them. Don't just assume that they're okay because they're quiet. Don't just assume that they're okay because they're smiling. Just drop in. Just let them know that you love them, that you're supporting them, and that you're there for them. You never know what you will get in return. Tonight, we just wanted to take time to just check in. This live is in memory of Gordon. Gordon was a phenomenal young man, and we lost him to mental illness. And I know that he will be so proud to know that we took the time to check in with someone else so they don't have to suffer in silence or feel lost or feel depressed or feel that there's no way out. We don't know what he was thinking, but we just wanted to check in to make sure that we spread love, because that's what the She Shack is all about. Thank you once again for tuning in. We'll see you next week on Tuesday night.
Good night.
Good night.
I knew you were going to put me on the spot. I knew it.
Well, you knew you was going on spot, right? You know you was going on spot. You definitely was going on.
Did you cook?
I did not, but I got the turkey right there. Turkey don't take long to fix something. So I figured